In the heart of a dusty town, the Marshal stood as a figure of strength and integrity. His tall frame and weathered face told stories of countless battles fought for justice. Known for his unwavering sense of right and wrong, he was a guardian to the townsfolk, always ready to lend a hand or offer wise counsel. The people trusted him not only because he wore a badge but because he wore it with honor. Every morning, the Marshal would walk through the main street, tipping his hat to shopkeepers and nodding to ranchers tending their cattle. He had a reputation for being fair but firm, never backing down when trouble brewed. Yet, there were whispers in the shadows about his past, a badge taken from a once respected rancher cast aside in anger. The townspeople could see the tension simmering beneath the surface. As the sun dipped low on the horizon, casting long shadows across the town, the Marshal prepared for yet another day of keeping peace. Little did he know that soon he would face a test unlike any other. A call for help would send him on a journey that would challenge his beliefs and put him squarely in harm's way. Just as the Marshal finished his morning rounds, the sharp sound of a gunshot echoed through the town. Instantly on alert, he felt his heart race. Moments later, the town's doctor burst into his office, eyes wide with fear and urgency. "Marshal! You need to come quickly. A rancher has been shot over at Mill Creek." The news hit him like a thunderclap. The rancher was known for his hard work and generosity, often helping others in town. Now he lay wounded and alone, and time was slipping away. The Marshal nodded, his mind racing with thoughts of what might have happened and who could be responsible. With each second that passed, the stakes grew higher. "His sons are furious," the doctor warned, wiping sweat from his brow. "If they find out you're involved." The Marshal understood well the anger that runs deep in a family, especially when it came to protecting their own. He grabbed his hat and gun belt, ready for anything that lay ahead. As he mounted his horse, he could hear the distant sounds of chaos brewing. The urgency of the call was clear, he had to reach the rancher before it was too late, knowing danger lurked just around the corner. As the Marshal rode hard toward Mill Creek, worry gnawed at him. When he finally arrived, he was met by a sight that chilled him to the bone. The rancher lay sprawled on the ground, blood pooling around him, his face pale and drawn. The once strong man now seemed frail and vulnerable, groaning softly in pain. The Marshal rushed to his side, kneeling beside the rancher and feeling the urgency of the moment. "Help me," the rancher gasped, his breath labored as he looked up with desperate eyes. The pain etched on his face told a story of struggle and fear. A bullet had struck him in the side, and each movement sent ripples of agony coursing through him. "Stay with me," the Marshal urged gently, trying to stabilize his friend while scanning their surroundings nervously, aware that trouble could strike any time. The rancher's shaky hands clutched at his shirt, stained dark with blood. "I didn't see who shot me, but my boys, they'll come." Realizing the gravity of both the situation and impending danger, the Marshal felt a surge of determination. He had to get this man to safety, before it was too late, a task that might also invite greater peril for them both. As the Marshal worked to stabilize the rancher, a group of figures emerged from the shadows, their expressions dark and filled with rage. The rancher's sons had arrived, their faces twisted with a mix of concern and fury. Known for their fierce loyalty to their father, they were ready to defend him against any threat, and right now, they saw the Marshal as the enemy. "Get away from him," shouted the eldest son, his voice echoing through the still air. He was tall and broad-shouldered, with a scowl that could intimidate even the toughest of men. His younger brother stood close behind him, fists clenched and teeth gritted, just as ready for a fight. "We know who's responsible for this," the younger son spat, his eyes narrowing at the sight of the Marshal. "You took our father's badge years ago. You don't deserve to help him now." The tension thickened like a storm cloud over Mill Creek. The Marshal could see the anger simmering in their eyes, fueled by past grievances and family loyalty. He understood they felt betrayed and sought revenge for what had happened long ago. As he looked at the injured rancher, he knew that time was running out. He needed to get them both to safety before this confrontation escalated into something far more dangerous. The air crackled with tension as the marshal faced the rancher's sons, their eyes burning with fury. The eldest son stepped forward, his voice low but threatening. "We haven't forgotten what you did, Marshal. You took our father's badge, stripped him of his pride. You left him a shadow of the man he once was." The younger son chimed in, his fists still clenched tightly. "And now you're pretending to help him? You don't deserve to be called a protector." The words hit the marshal like a slap, reminding him of mistakes from long ago that still haunted him. Memories flooded back, the day he had to strip the rancher of his badge due to an unfortunate incident involving a bar fight. The rancher had been drinking too much and caused trouble. It was a decision made out of necessity but one that had shattered their once respectful relationship. Since that day, resentment brewed between them, growing like a thorny vine. As the seconds passed, the marshal realized the depth of their animosity. He recognized that this was about more than just loyalty, it was about honor and the value of a man's reputation. With every word exchanged, he felt the stakes rise higher, and he knew he needed to defuse the situation quickly before violence erupted. With the rancher's weight across his shoulders, the marshal set off towards the doctor's house, the sun blazing overhead. Each step was a battle against the rough terrain, the rocky ground and uneven slopes made his legs scream with effort. He gritted his teeth, focusing on every breath, each one filled with urgency and fear. The rancher groaned softly, blood continuing to seep from his wound, soaking into the marshal's shirt. "Keep talking to me," the marshal urged, trying to distract both of them from the pain. The rancher managed a weak smile, recalling memories of better days on the ranch as they navigated a narrow path lined with sharp thorns that snagged at their clothes. The journey felt endless, but the thought of losing the rancher fueled the marshal's determination. As they climbed higher, exhaustion threatened to overwhelm him. A sharp pang of worry gripped him. What if he couldn't reach the doctor in time? What if he lost a friend today? Yet amid that turmoil, he felt a flicker of hope. The rancher's resilience inspired him to push further. Every ounce of strength was devoted to getting them through this ordeal, and with every unsteady step forward, he resolved that he would not fail. He had to save him, no matter the cost. As the marshal trudged onward, he heard the distant sound of hooves approaching. Out of the dust and heat emerged a figure on horseback, a local farmer named Old Man Jenkins, known for his sharp wit and kind heart. Spotting the marshal's strained expression and the wounded rancher, Jenkins immediately sensed trouble. "Need a hand, Marshal," he called out, his voice booming with authority. Without waiting for an answer, he dismounted and rushed to help. "Let's get him onto my horse, it'll be easier to carry him that way." The marshal gratefully accepted the offer, knowing they needed every ounce of strength to reach the doctor. Just as they secured the rancher, a pair of men on horseback rode up, their faces shaded by wide-brimmed hats. These were the rancher's cousins, known for their loyalty but also for their fiery tempers. "What are you doing with him?" one of them shouted, suspicion written all over his face. "Is this another one of your tricks, Marshal?" The tension thickened as Old Man Jenkins stepped between them. "He's hurt. Help us or get out of the way." The clash of emotions highlighted the divide within the community, some willing to help and others ready to judge. The journey was not just about saving a life, it was about navigating old rivalries and forging new alliances in a time of crisis. As they pressed on, the tension in the air thickened like a brewing storm. Suddenly, the rancher's sons reappeared, blocking their path with fury etched on their faces. "What are you doing with our father?" the eldest son shouted, his voice trembling with anger. "You think you can just take him away after what you did?" The marshal felt a rush of adrenaline as he faced them. "He needs help," he replied firmly, trying to keep his tone steady despite the fear rising within him. "We're getting him to the doctor." But the sons weren't interested in reason, their loyalty to their father overshadowed any rational thought. The younger son stepped forward, fists clenched and eyes blazing. "You're the reason he's in this state. You took away his badge and his dignity." Old Man Jenkins positioned himself protectively beside the marshal, ready to defend him if necessary. "This isn't the time for old grudges. Your father is fighting for his life." Yet, words fell on deaf ears as tempers flared. The confrontation reached a boiling point, and it was clear that bravery would be tested here, not just in facing physical danger but in choosing whether to let past grievances dictate their actions or work together for a common cause. The outcome of this tense moment could determine not only the rancher's fate but also the future of their fractured community. As the tension reached a peak, the marshal stood at a crossroads, heart pounding in his chest. He could feel the heat of anger radiating from the rancher's sons, their fists clenched and faces contorted with rage. Instinct urged him to defend himself, to assert his authority and remind them of his duty. But then he glanced down at the rancher, who lay weakly on the ground, blood oozing slowly from his wound. In that moment, clarity washed over him. This wasn't just about his own safety or pride, it was about saving a life. The rancher's fading strength filled him with determination. If he allowed fear or past grievances to dictate his actions, he might not only lose a friend but also further fracture their community. "Listen," the marshal called out, raising his hands in a gesture of peace. "We can't afford to let anger take over. Your father needs help now more than ever." He could see doubt flickering in their eyes, and with that glimmer of hope, he pressed on. "We all want what's best for him, let's work together." The decision loomed large as he weighed the risk of confrontation against the pressing need for collaboration. The choice was clear: he would put his own fears aside for the sake of the rancher and their shared future. Finally, they reached the doctor's house, a small structure with a weathered sign swinging gently in the wind. The marshal pushed open the door and rushed inside, his heart racing with both relief and urgency. The doctor looked up in surprise, quickly assessing the situation as he sprang into action. "Get him on the table," the doctor ordered, immediately taking control of the room. As they laid the rancher down, the sight of his pale face and labored breathing filled the marshal with dread. Time was fleeting, and every second felt like an eternity. Old man Jenkins stepped back to catch his breath, gratitude washing over him for their timely arrival. Yet, even in this moment of relief, the marshal couldn't shake off the lingering tension from earlier. He could sense that the rancher's sons were still close by, their anger simmering just beneath the surface. As he glanced out of the window, he spotted them in the distance, watching intently with wary eyes. The unresolved issues between them loomed large, an unspoken threat hanging in the air. The marshal knew that while they had reached safety for now, this fragile truce could shatter at any moment if emotions spiraled out of control once again. The battle was far from over, it had simply shifted from one front to another. In the days that followed the rancher's surgery, his condition gradually improved, but the emotional scars ran deep for both families. The rancher lay in bed, surrounded by his family, reflecting on the incident that had changed everything. His sons visited him daily, their initial anger toward the marshal slowly giving way to a conflicting mix of gratitude and resentment. They had seen how hard the marshal fought to save their father, yet memories of his past actions still lingered like a dark cloud. The rancher often encouraged his sons to reconsider their feelings toward the marshal. "He may have made mistakes," he told them softly, "but we must find a way to move forward." In those moments of vulnerability, he hoped they would understand that forgiveness was essential, not just for others but for their own peace of mind. Meanwhile, the marshal found himself grappling with a sense of guilt and responsibility. He visited the rancher whenever he could, hoping to bridge the gap between them. Each meeting was laced with tension but also an opportunity for healing. As the rancher recovered, so too did the possibility of reconciliation between families. They all understood that healing would take time, but it was a necessary step for restoring harmony within their community. As the days turned into weeks, the dust settled in Mill Creek, both literally and figuratively. The rancher's recovery served as a catalyst for reflection within the community. The marshal, now a frequent visitor at the ranch, found himself rebuilding bridges with not only the rancher but also his sons. Their conversations were often tense but gradually transformed into discussions about forgiveness and understanding. The rancher's sons began to see their father's injuries in a new light. They recognized that the marshal's actions, though flawed, had ultimately saved their father's life. This realization shifted their perspective on the past and opened a path toward healing. Reflecting on their journey, they understood that holding on to grudges only perpetuated pain. For the Marshal, this experience reinforced his commitment to justice and compassion. He learned that true strength lies not just in authority but in vulnerability and dialogue. As relationships among families grew stronger, so did the sense of community in Mill Creek. The townsfolk began to come together more frequently, sharing stories and rebuilding trust. In the end, this chapter of hardship taught everyone valuable lessons about forgiveness, the complexities of justice, and the importance of unity. Together, they discovered that true healing comes from understanding one another, fostering a spirit of resilience that would carry them forward.